I'm coming off of a nice $8,500 win in my last session of 100-100. Today, we're buying in for $10,000 to play the biggest game running, which is $25.50 with a $50 big blind ante. I had a $42,000 loss the last time I played these stakes when I ran into quads 3 times. I'm still recovering from that one. It'd be nice to get off to a good start today and string some winning sessions together in order to get out of the hole that I've dug for the year. Walking into Bobby's room, I'm not sure it's going to be very easy for us because at the moment, today's opponents are all good pros that I'm familiar with. Everyone draws for seats. We pick the 6 right where we're standing, which is convenient. The session begins at 10:01 in the morning. After a slow start, we're dealt ace-queen offsuit in the big blind. The button raises to 125. My good friend Jake calls in the small blind. You may remember him all the way back from episode 2 over 8 years ago when him and I went to Laughlin together to play 2-5. I've known him since I moved out to Vegas in 2012. We used to play every day together at Red Rock. Now, we're both playing nosebleed stakes in Bobby's room. It's a cool feeling. It's like if you grew up playing Little League with someone, then flash forward several years, and all of a sudden, you're playing against each other at Yankee Stadium. Just because we're friends doesn't mean that I'm going to go easy on him. I 3-bet to 700. Winning without resistance would be an okay result since we don't even have a pair. The button folds. He's who I was most concerned about. The small blind isn't really supposed to call with any combinations after only flatting the initial raise. He calls anyway, which I could see him doing with suited connectors or small pocket pairs. We're heads up in position. The flop comes Queen Jack 8 rainbow. We've got top. The small blind checks. It's a very connected board, so I'm tempted to check back just so we have a better chance of getting to showdown. I almost do it, then I think to myself, this is such a better flop for us than it is for our opponent. Earlier on in the session, I saw him 3-bet the button with Jack 10 offsuit from the small blind. I imagine he'd do the same thing with Queen Jack, and he's supposed to 3-bet 10-9 suited at an extremely high frequency, so I can rule out those hands that beat us. He's almost never going to have a set of queens, jacks, or even 8s very often when he doesn't 3-bet, so there really aren't many 2-pair or better hands that I'm concerned about the small blind having. We're clear to bet with a massive range advantage. I fire for 1,000. Our top pair is vulnerable, so I don't want to go with a small sizing. Jake isn't going to let me take it down with continued aggression. He puts in the min check raise to 2,000. Damn it. Maybe I miscalculated something and we should have checked back. There's an interesting raise size from Jake because it puts a ton of pressure on me without him risking too much. In the off chance that he has a set or straight, I'm drawing near dead. If I call, I'll only have about 6,000 left, which would be a bit more than a pot-sized bet, and there's a very good chance that the small blind will jam the turn. I hate being in these kind of spots, especially at the beginning of the session. They rarely go my way, particularly lately, and then if it goes poorly, I'm playing catch-up for the remainder of the day, battling to hopefully just get unstuck. I'm tempted to cut the losses and fold because the downside's massive, but we're getting such a good price, and we have removal to Queen Jack, which is the main hand I think the opponent is representing. I remember that Petrangelo's told me in the past, we can't worry about what happens on future streets. We have to make the best decision we can in the moment based on what we have, what our opponent can have, and the odds that we're getting. In this instance, we're getting a great price, so I call for 1,000 more, but I'm not feeling too optimistic. The turn is the deuce of spades. It's an absolute blank. There's no way that this changes anything. I have 6150 total. Our frenemy has us covered. He's going to apply maximum pressure.
Basically, think like pocket 8. Have here.
This is an interesting quip from Jake. I'm not really sure what to make of it. The problem is that if we're behind, we could actually be drawing dead at this point. There's no backup plan of hitting a straight or flush if the opponent has a stat or better. If we put an extra 6,150 into this pot, it could put us in a 10k hole immediately. On the other hand, there are some bluffs that make sense that the small blind can have, consisting of combos containing either a 9 or 10. I'm just having a hard time trying to figure out how the small blind can have many value combos. The more I think about it, the more I think the opponent's bluffing. Thinking is what usually gets me in trouble, but I can't get away. We don't have much. We're going to play for all of it anyway.
Alright, I call.
What's the choice?
I might be drawing dead, so.
I don't care what we do.
What do you have? Jack 9. But just go twice.
We're playing an $18,000 all-in pot we have step 1 complete of getting it in good, but you may remember we played about a $20,000 pot at the beginning of the last high stakes session you saw in the previous vlog. We got it in as a 95.5% favorite on the turn, and the opponent drilled the 2-outer on the first run out. In this instance, we're favored again, but our opponent has a lot more outs. He can hit a jack, 9, or 10 to beat us. The first river is the 7 of spades. We lock up half the pot. Our gutsy all-in call at least won't cost us any money. Now we have the chance at scooping the entire thing if we can hold on the second run out. The dealer somewhat slowly puts out the 8 of spades. It pairs the board, but doesn't improve our opponent. We had to make a tough decision to risk everything. It pays off for us to think things through. We catch our friend attempting to semi-bluff us. I admire his guts, but he ends up getting punished. Finally, we scoop a massive pot to start a session and be up big right away. With this whole pot coming our direction, we go from being down about 1,200 to being up almost 8,000. It's a lot of money, but nothing compared to the 159,634 that I'm giving away in this free roll on March 25th at 5 p.m. Pacific time on WPT Gold for those of you who have signed up using promo BRAD. I'm personally on the hook for 6 figures of this prize pool, even adding all of the $59,000 that I received during my recent Lodge Championship Series high roller victory to this event. There are 2 ways to be eligible after you've signed up to WPT Gold using promo BRAD. One is to purchase a minimum package of $19.99 worth of gold coins that comes with 20 sweeps coins that are redeemable for cash at 1-to-1 with the US dollar. If you do this, you'll receive 2,000 in chips to start the free roll. The other way to become eligible is by playing 1,000 sweeps coins hands labeled SC. Again, the sweeps coins are redeemable for cash at 1-to-1 with the US dollar. If you do this, you'll start out with 5,000 chips. For every 1,000 SC hands you play leading up to the event, you'll receive an additional 5,000 chips in your starting stack up to a maximum of 100,000, so there's a big incentive to play as much as you can before the free roll starts. I'm on there firing quite a bit. The games couldn't be softer, especially for the stakes. I know a lot of you noticed this yourselves. I have more information in the description box below for those of you who are interested. There's also a 5K bounty on my head for the player who knocks me out of the tournament, so you'll want to be at my table. Hopefully I'll see you on there. About 15 minutes later, we're dealt Jack 9 offsuit in the big blind. The hijack raises to 125. He's the opponent we won a $23,000 pot against at the tail end of the last vlog. He needs to get revenge. I'll give him some action. After all, we're playing him with his own money. I call for 75 more. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes Jack 8-4 rainbow. We've got top pair with the backdoor straight draw. I check. The hijack isn't someone to throw in the white flag often. He makes a small c-bet of 100. Our hand is actually quite vulnerable with 3 overcards that can come out, and even a 9 might not be a good card for us, so we can check raise this tiny c-bet at about a 50% frequency. You can't see it, but I actually cut my chips to randomize in order to determine whether we're going to call or raise. If the $100 chip I cut to has the 1 facing to one side, let's say between 12 and 6 o'clock on the right side, then I'll call. If I randomize and the 1 is pointing to the left side between 12 and 6, I'll check raise. In this instance, I roll a more passive line and I just call. We're seeing an inexpensive turn card. The dealer puts out the deuce of spades. It's a blank. I check to the pre-flop and flop aggressor. He slows down and checks back. I doubt he'd do that with a jack or better on such a brick turn that shouldn't have changed anything. We almost certainly have the lead. The river is another 4. There won't be many 4s in the opponent's range when he opens from the hijack. It's in theory a better card for us because we'll have plenty of 4s. I'm treating the river card as if it's a blank, as I bet 600 for value. Ideally, this will look like I've missed with a number of straight draws that were present on the flop, like Queen 10, 10-9, 9-7, 7-6, 6-5, and even a few others. Maybe we can get called by middling pocket pair or perhaps even ace high if the opponent doesn't believe that we're as strong as we are. The hijack calls, we turn over our top pair to show that we went with a large sizing for value. The opponent shows that he surprisingly got there on us.
What the f***? Come on, man.
The opponent drills trips on the river with 5-4 clubs. I said that he wouldn't have many 4s when he opens from the hijack, but I didn't say that he'd have 0. He gets the win. Next we pick up King Jack offsuit in the small blind during a bomb pot. All 7 players put in $200 each and we go straight to a flop. The dealer puts out Jack 9-6 rainbow. We have top pair. It's still a little scary to only have top pair when we have 6 other opponents who all have position on us. Checks to the button. He makes a small bet of 400. Maybe we're best or maybe we're beat. Either way, we're going to see at least one more card. I call, surmising that we probably have the winning hand, but I'd hate to see a check raise from one of the other players. Everyone else folds, it's down to heads up. The turn is the 10 of diamonds. This is a scary card because a lot of different straight draws get there. I check. I definitely prefer to see a check back. The button obliges. He checks. It's unlikely that he has two pair or better. The river is the 8 of hearts, putting 4 to the straight on board. This has gotten worse and worse for us. We no longer beat almost anything. I check with plans of surrendering. If we see a bet, the button is okay getting to showdown. He checks back. We reveal our top pair. It's the winner. It isn't a riveting hand with much strategy involved, but it's still a significant pot with 1,400 in the middle before the cards were even dealt. We're adding to the stack. Currently, we're up $8,500, and it's only an hour into the session. Here we're dealt Jack-8 suited in the big blind. The button raises to 125. We can call, or actually mix in some 3 bets. I call to ensure that we're able to get to the flop. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes 10-4 deuce rainbow. We don't have much except 1 over and some backdoor draws. I check. It's not too coordinated of a board, and it favors the pre-flop aggressor's range since she can have all the sets and overpairs. The button bets 125 again. Calling with hopes of getting some dream run out that results in us hitting a big hand isn't all that appealing. As is, we have virtually no showdown value. We do need to include quite a few bluffs in our range against a small sizing on a flop like this. When it's button versus big blind, we can bluff with some straight draws and other combos that somewhat connect with the low cards on the board. Then, we can incorporate some combos like ours that connect with the high card and can improve on a lot of turns. I check raise to 400 to attack the wide c-bet range and give us the opportunity to win this pot right now without necessarily having to make a strong hand. People tend to c-bet at too high of a frequency and overfold with check raises. Our play is extremely effective against opponents who fit this mold. The button folds in this instance. It's a small pot, but it's one that we win today that maybe we wouldn't have won a few years ago when we weren't as familiar with this spot. All the little wins eventually add up to significantly improve the bottom line at the end of the year. In this one, we look down at 7 deuce offsuit on the button. The 7 deuce game is on, so if we win with this hand, each player at the table will have to give us $200. The hijack raises to 125. The hijack will have a fairly wide range, and the cutoff knows it. He 3-bets to 400. While I could make an argument for folding 7 deuce after seeing a raise in a 3-bet, I know the cutoff doesn't necessarily have to have a monster to put in a re-raise. This is a fun spot to cold 4-bet. I'm going for it. I 4-bet to 1100. If we lose, it's unfortunate, but we're only risking 1100 to win the 650 that's already in the middle, plus an additional 1400 from our opponents. If our 4-bet's successful, we'll win over $2,000. The hijack folds. The cutoff isn't exactly at the top of his range. He folds as well. We turn over the worst starting hand in poker in order to add a couple thousand to our stack. Out of all the carnival games, I enjoy playing 7 deuce the most. It's a fun way to increase the action, and I like seeing all the black chips come towards us. With this win, our stack crosses over $20,000 and we're in 5-figure profit territory. It's a little past noon when we're dealt Jack 10 of hearts in the cutoff. The hijack raises to 150. Calling or 3-betting are both on the table. I call to see a flop in position. Tournament superstar Adam Hendricks is at the table in the big blind. He's regularly ranked in the top 10 or 20 in the world as a tournament player, but he's not as familiar with cash game strategy. He calls to defend. 3 of us are seeing the flop. It comes ace queen 7 with 2 hearts. We've got a royal flush draw. It checks to us. We're not going to have pocket aces, pocket queens, or ace king type of hands when we only flat the pre-flop raise. So we don't really want to be firing into 2 opponents with a capped range, even though our hand's quite strong. I mostly want to see if I can drill the royal flush anyway. I check to see the turn. The dealer puts out the 8 of hearts, giving us the second nuts and an open-ended straight flush draw. The big blind checks. The hijack bets 500. I consider slow playing and calling to again see if we can hit a royal flush or straight flush while we trap our opponent. Our hand is so strong though, we want to try to pump money into the pot and perhaps stack the cutoff. I raised to 1400. Adam isn't immediately folding in the big blind. Does he possibly have a flush or other strong hand that he can pay us off with? He has the ability to play very aggressively. It might get him into trouble here. Eventually, he gets his wild urges under control and he folds. The cutoff isn't quick to let go of his cards. I think our check back on the flop may have put some doubt into the cutoff's mind that we actually have a flush. He's already been caught bluffing me today and he doesn't want to get into any more trouble. He folds too. We win, but I still want to see if we can hit a straight flush or royal.
Can we see the river, please? Straight flush.
Wow.
You knew it was coming, huh? That's why you asked for it?
How sick.
I had King of Hearts 10. That's good.
Be the king. Next, we look down at ace queen suited under the gun +1. I raised to 125. We're not in a particularly great game. There's only one recreational player at the table. He calls in the hijack. We're heads up out of position against him. The flop comes queen, queen, 6 rainbow. We've got trips and nothing to worry about. I check to set the trap for the in position player. He likes to take stabs as bluffs. He comes through for us in this instance with a bet of 150. If he happens to have trips, we might be able to stack him by check raising and building up the pot from the start. It's just too unlikely that he has the case queen. I call to keep the opponent's bluffs in. The turn is the jack of hearts. It's not a great turn because queen jack now takes the lead against us, which is the type of hand that the hijack might have called our bet with pre-flop and then bet for value with on the flop. If he has some other small or medium pocket pair, he won't like seeing another overcard come out either, so it could be tougher for us to make additional money when we're ahead with our trips. I check. The hijack quickly goes with a check back. It's now incredibly unlikely that we're beat. There's a better chance that the hijack's drawing dead. The river is the queen of hearts giving us quad quiggities. We already would have hit a straight flush on the river not long ago. Now we drill another monster hand. It's going to be tough to get paid in this spot knowing that we have everything and the opponent checks back turn. The one thing we have going for us is that I doubt the hijack will put us on quads. I make nearly a pot-sized bet of 600 to go for value. There's no hasty decision from the hijack. He's going to take his time on this one. The opponent told me earlier that he watches the vlog. A call here would all but guarantee that he's going to make the video. After about 30 seconds, the opponent calls.
Quads.
Wow.
Turn the camera over.
Guess I made the bluff.
Look at that stupid smile on his face, too. He has a little smirk. He should just
you
give
just-
one of these, you know? They make quads, they're in a straight flush.
Guess I made it.
And he had some idiot bluff into it.
It's been a great day. After several weeks of getting absolutely torched, running into big hand after big hand, and contemplating reactivating my CPA license, I'm all of a sudden getting hit with a deck myself and running up a stack. It's time for another bomb pot. We've got ace jack offsuit middle position as we go 7 ways to the flop. It comes 6-6-6. Under the gun makes a small bet of 200. She could be trying to steal it, knowing that it's not very likely someone's going to be holding a 6. She could have a pocket pair that she's betting for value with that we'll have a good amount of equity against, especially in this instance when we're getting 8-1 on a call. It's too soon to fold our ace high for such a small bet when we might have the best hand. I call. If we don't improve and face more aggression on future streets, we'll reevaluate how we want to proceed. Everyone's concerned after seeing the early position bet and my call. It's down to heads up. The turn is the jack of diamonds giving us a full house. This is even better than hitting an ace because it's tougher for the opponent to envision us drilling a pair on the turn. Under the gun doesn't seem all that concerned though. She bets 400. There's another small sizing. We want to keep in her bluffs and any hand that's drawing dead to an out or two. If she happens to have a 6 that she's milking me with, we don't want to inflate the pot. I call to keep things manageable and ensure that we'll see the river. The dealer puts out the deuce of hearts. I love seeing that card because it changes nothing. Evidently, the opponent doesn't mind seeing the deuce either. She blasts away for 1,800 after betting 200 and 400 previously. She's not worried at all that I may have a 6. Usually when that's the case, it's because the opponent has one. Maybe she flopped quads. The way she's played it is consistent with that story. She could also have a high pocket pair like aces, kings, or queens that are all beating us. Our sneaky boat is downgraded mostly into a bluff catcher. It's just too good of a hand to let go of, even though I'm not feeling great about it. I call. The opponent reveals that she has pocket 9s and was going big for thin value on the river. We get the victory. Under the gun, probably should have gone bigger on the flop because it's important to get players out when your hand's vulnerable to high cards coming out on the turn or river. We get a beautiful run out to pretty much win the maximum. We're up 12,000 on the day. Here we're dealt pocket queens on the button. Under the gun raises to 150. Adam Hendricks is in middle position. He 3-bets to 425. This isn't a super fun situation to be in. After seeing the player first to act raise, we see a 3-bet. We're going to be 4-betting and folding under these conditions, especially with the 7 deuce game on. We're not going to be folding queens. I 4-bet to 1100. If we get 5-bet, we know that we're in trouble. Adam is definitely capable of 3-betting light or for value with a hand that's worse than ours, so I'm not too worried about him. The initial preflop raiser folds. It's just on Adam now. It's probably in the back of his mind that we could have 7 deuce. After all, we cold 4-bet with it earlier. He folds as well though. We win several hundred in the middle without having to see a flop. We'll take it. About 6 hours into the session, we look down at king-queen suited in the small blind. It folds to us. This is one of those hands that we're going to be raising with 100% of the time when it's blind versus blind. I raised to 200. The big blind knows that we're supposed to be raising with a variety of not so great combos, which allows him to 3-bet at a high frequency with some trash combos himself if he wants to. The big blind re-raises to 700. Little does our opponent know, we raise for value. I call for 500 more to close the action. We're heads up out of position. The flop comes ace 10-5 rainbow. We've got a gutter to Broadway and a backdoor flush draw, but it's not the ideal flop since we may only have 4 outs. I check to the pre-flop aggressor, like I'm going to be doing most of the time. The big blind can't help but c-bet on an ace high flop. He wagers a small amount of 450. Calling and playing out of position with just a gutter ball isn't all that enticing. I'd rather try and give ourselves a chance to win this right now. I'll call occasionally, but here I check raise to 1700. The big blind folds immediately. Our king high could have been the best hand given there was no thought about continuing on from our opponent. It's nice when you're semi-bluffing and don't have to sweat at getting through. All in all, things are going pretty smoothly for us today. Next we've got king jack of clubs in the small blind. Under the gun raises to 150. This is the same guy that we made quads against earlier. He's the only non-pro in the game, and I've seen him get squirrely with bluffs, particularly in hands against Adam Hendricks. I call to see a flop. If the opponent opened from later position, maybe I would have 3-bet, but when he's first to act, we're going to play our suited Broadway cards more conservatively, although I did see the same player previously raise hands like 9-5 suited from early position. We're heads up, the flop comes jack 8 deuce rainbow. We've got top pair with a good kicker. I check. The opponent is a c-bet master. He goes to his stack and bets 250. I strongly consider check raising, but this opponent might continue firing away with nothing if I give him some rope. I call to see the turn. The dealer puts out the jack of spades, giving us trips. Our hand is well concealed. I check again. It's very unlikely under the gun is going to have trips or better. He's going to rep a strong hand anyway. He bets 475. There's almost no way that he has us beat. Feels like he's blasting away with a queen 10 type of hand. When we've got it all, it's tough to imagine our opponent making this bet for value, so we really don't want to scare him off with a raise. I call to continue playing possum. The river is the queen of spades. If the opponent has queen 10 or queen 9, he'll be happy to get the showdown and he'll likely check back if we check. I don't want to give him the opportunity to do that. I lead for 800 instead. If the opponent paired his queen, he'll feel obligated to call and get the showdown. Even if the opponent took the lead on us, drilling a straight with 10-9, I don't think that he'll want to reopen the pot with a raise after we bet, so he'll call in that instance too. Under the gun isn't going to call. He raises to 31-25. I didn't see that coming. There really aren't many combos that he played this way that make sense. I'm regretting my river lead. I discounted him raising with a straight, so he's mostly just representing a full house. We have removal to full house combos. I've already seen this dude make some other wacky bluffs. I don't think that he would have bet turn with pocket queens when the jack pairs, so I mostly rule out him having queens full. There aren't any combos of jack 8 suited that he could have. He's basically representing pocket 8s, pocket deuces, or one of 3 combos of queen jack. He's technically not even supposed to have queen jack offsuit when he opens from early position, so he should only have the one suited combo of queen jack of hearts. It's a frustrating spot to potentially have to fold trips when there's not much I'm losing to that the opponent could have.
Yeah, queen jack, exactly.
Call.
Called up it.
Nice. How much is it?
31-25.
We get rivered and lose a huge chunk to our Aussie opponent. I love Aussie, so it doesn't hurt that badly, but it was such a smooth day for us before this hand. If we won, we'd be absolutely crushing. This brings our profit down to about 6,000. I can tell I'm on edge, seeing this pot go the other direction. I don't want to implode and give away the rest of our profit after being up a lot almost the entire session, but I'm not leaving either. A few hands later, at 4:30, we're dealt 7 deuce offsuit in the cutoff during an 8-handed bomb pot. If we win, we get the 1,600 in the middle, plus an additional 200 from everyone at the table. The flop comes 7-5-3 rainbow. We've got top pair with a backdoor wheel draw. It checks to us. We need to bet for protection and to try to win all the bonus money. I make a small bet of 400, hoping this will get the job done. With 7 other opponents, I doubt that we'll be able to take it down without seeing some resistance. One by one, everyone surprisingly folds. We show that we win with 7 deuce, which had to have been the best hand. The rest of the table needs to pony up an extra $200. We don't quite get back all the money that we lost in the previous hand with King Jack, but we recover the majority of it quicker than expected. It's been a long day. It's time to rack up. Played for 7 hours today, and yeah, that was a good session. I won 9,240 and played a lot of big pots. Pretty exhausted, but nice to string some wins together after getting wrecked in these big games in back-to-back sessions earlier this year. So I'm still on the comeback trail, but I'm chipping away at the deficit and feeling much better. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons. It helps out the channel a ton. Don't forget to sign up to ClubWPTGold.com using promo BRAD for the 159,634 free roll. That's going to take place at 5 p.m. Pacific time on March 25th. That's going to be awesome. So I'm going to be live streaming the whole thing. And I'll see you guys next time. Good luck at the tables.